as the same folks have made, the Somalis have made my city of Wilmington, Delaware, on a smaller scale. I might add, if you ever come to the train station with me, you'll notice that I have great relationships with them because there's an awful lot who are driving cabs.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
I am reminded of the song from the Broadway hit Avenue Q, Everyone's a Little Bit Racist.
I guess we're both a little bit racist.
Admitting it is not an easy thing to do.
But I guess it's true.
Between me and you, I think
Everyone's a little bit racist.
Certainly the number 2 man in the nation constitutionally could be number 1, given criticism of recent comments. To open that particular piece of video, you saw Vice President Biden at the summit dealing with extremism, talking about Somali cab drivers in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware. Then back on the campaign trail when he was just a senator, you heard him talk about Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Eleven workers. And take a look at yesterday, the picture of the vice president with a hands-on approach. There he is with Ashton Carter's wife after the new Secretary of Defense was sworn in, making comments. And I wonder if Mrs. Carter was using "Gee, your hair smells terrific." So the vice president, talk about a war on women. With the questionable conduct of the number 2 man, let's bring in our political panel. On the right, Republican strategist Ford O'Connell at Newsmax Washington. Ditto, our friend on the left, though he's smack dab in the middle of our screen, Stephen Cobb, attorney and former General Counsel for the Democratic Party of Virginia. So, Stephen, make the case in defense of Vice President Biden. He's just not a real-life Alexander Throttlebottom, is he?
You know, I think this is largely much ado about nothing. This is, I think, the result of a slow news day brought on by severe weather in D.C. I don't think there's been any real complaints. This is the right trying to make, a set of complaints against the vice president where I don't think really any exist. I understand it's an awkward picture, but I don't think this is news.
Well, Counselor, let me ask you this. If you did that publicly, would you catch a little grief at home from the missus?
As I said, I understand that
I would remind you, you're virtually under oath. No, you're not, but just go ahead and answer the question, Stephen. It's okay.
No, I mean,
JD, I watched this video. Let me jump in for 1 second.
Okay,
I watched
ahead,
this video at the Ash Carter swearing in. He had his hand on her shoulders for 27 seconds. If this had been the NFL, he would have been fined for aggravated assault. I'm surprised, honestly, that feminist groups aren't giving his staff a tranquilizer dart saying, "Down, boy, down." And let's be honest, if this were a Republican, Maureen Dowd at the New York Times would be writing columns about Republicans and public rape. Let's be honest. He looks a little rapey, and that's just what's going on. But it's a double standard, because if Democrats didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
Well, there you have to admit,
hyperbole, Ford. I mean, I think that's going above and beyond for what was a brief photo op. And
wait. Let's remember Senator Coons' daughter, Maggie, the biker patron in Ohio. Come on, this is a modus operandi of crazy Uncle Joe.
What about it, Stephen?
I don't think
seeing the pictures. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I've seen the pictures. Again, I think this is much ado about nothing. The vice president has a very folksy, friendly style, particularly on the campaign trail. And
folksy and friendly, man, that's touchy-feely. Come on, Stephen. Just admit, it's okay. A vice president catches grief anyway. We know that goes with the territory, but come on, this is not really the kind of touching married men, whether they're vice president or anybody, should be doing to women who are not their wives.
I have no doubt that this will be continued fodder for people to attack the vice president and good punchlines for late night television. But I think when there are serious policy debates going on and issues in the world, I think this ranks very low on the news.
Fair enough. Listen, we don't know if it's a messaging problem or a massaging problem. We'll talk about the State Department and more with our political panel next.
You suggested that maybe if you find these young men jobs, they might not become terrorists, right?
Well, I think that's a gross oversimplification. It might be too nuanced an argument for some, like I've seen over the past 24 hours, some of the commentary out there, but it's really the smart way that Democrats, Republicans, military commanders, our partners in the Arab world think we need to combat.
So just to be
State Department spokesman Marie Harf there on CNN responding to critics, saying perhaps her comments on terrorism are just too nuanced for us to understand. Let's continue our conversation with Ford O'Connell, who's spending the hour with us on the right, the Republican strategist, and Stephen Cobb, the former legal counsel to the Democratic Party of Virginia. Now, this is one where party labels are going to mix it up because, Ford, you went to UVA Law School. Marie Harf got her master's degree in international relations from UVA. Are you going to defend a woman who likewise went to school in Charlottesville?
Somewhere Thomas Jefferson is rolling over in his grave 2 times. She's pushing a liberal fantasy. ISIS is not a ragtag gang. They're an organized unit that's bent on a holy war, both against non-Muslims and with Muslim disbelievers. So the fact that you can just tout jobs and color TVs and they're going to disband is absolutely crazy. I'm still waiting for the Obama jobs program in the United States, JD.
Well, let's get Stephen's take on it. I mean, this whole thing about economics instead of dealing with terror, that is not the message to put out there, is it?
Well, I don't think that's the message that she sent. I think what she said first and foremost in the initial interview was that we're going to go after these members of ISIS and we're going to kill them and we're going to keep going after them throughout, but we have to take a larger perspective on this, and that such radical groups like ISIS tend to prey on the young, uneducated, and poor of those countries, and that if we're looking for a long-term solution, that it needs to be a holistic one, not just one based on military action and killing those who are current combatants, but in preventing their recruits going forward.
Yeah, I made the point last hour. If you want to eliminate terrorism, you eliminate terrorists first and foremost. And I got to tell you, with all due respect, Stephen, the Twitterverse is picking up on what Ms. Harf had to say. In fact, there's a tweet we want to show you where Ms. Harf is kind of resembling a pajama boy from back around Christmas time. You look right here, they got their facial expressions. Wow, it's uncanny. They bear uncanny resemblance. The whole notion that young people are going to buy into this kind of appeal. Stephen, do you really think this kind of stuff works demographically and as pronounced policy for the United States?
Well, I'm not sure that that was pronounced policy. Again, I think that was looking at some of the issues in the region at a 30,000-foot level. Sometimes, things get oversimplified in social media and in Twitter.
Stephen,
and again,
this administration is playing semantic somersaults with this. Let's be honest. What does ISIS want? They want to kill non-believers and they want to gain territory. So let's be honest here. You actually have to identify who they are and what they want if we actually want to defeat them. This sort of, we'll throw a little different things on, a little whack-a-mole strategy, means that this administration has no intent on defeating ISIS. All they want to do is leave it to the next administration and wash their hands of it.
You get the last word, Stephen. Go ahead.
I don't think that's fair at all. This administration's made its number one priority is taking the fight to ISIS, and I think they're showing that they're completely committed to that. I think that they're completely committed to that goal, and I think that these comments are taken out of context on what is a far more broad issue there in the Middle East.
But let's face this.
Messaging is politics, my friend.
Just this observation, apart from politics, you're confronted by a mugger who has a gun and wants your wallet. Now, you don't have time to go back to the root causes. Was he breastfed or bottle fed? What pathologies are in his personality? Your first action is to remove the threat. And unfortunately, whether intended or not, Stephen, Ms. Harf gave this impression that, hey, killing is part of it, but not the only thing. We have to have economic empowerment. That's my take on it. Stephen, Ford, we thank you, and America's Forum will continue right after this.